Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first installation of Technology Tuesdays in 2021, all about smart speakers. Thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Lydia Nimke, and I've been doing library programming for the past 3 years or so. With us today, we also have Beth Gabriel.
Hi, everybody. Can't see me, but I'm here in the background. Please make sure to use the question box if you have questions, and I will help you.
And she also does awesome adult programs. So please reach out to her if you have any questions or concerns, and she'll read your questions aloud. All righty. So just a little bit of general housekeeping to go over. You are all muted and have your cameras turned off by default, but feel free to ask questions again at any time through the questions box, and Beth will read them aloud. Also, feel free to use the chat to communicate. Just switch the recipient to all panelists and attendees if you'd like everyone to see what you have to say. All right, so we have 4 core concepts that we're going to be working our way through today. First, we're going to talk about what a smart speaker actually is so that we all have the same base level of understanding. Then we're going to talk about the 3 most popular smart speakers. And then we're going to talk about all the good ways that you can use them to enrich your life and simplify your daily routine. And of course, we're going to try and have a well-rounded discussion about all the potentially negative things that they are capable of. So we'll go ahead and get started. A smart speaker is pretty much a speaker with artificial intelligence, specifically natural language processing. Natural language processing is a subset of artificial intelligence, and that it basically is the ability to understand human speech and language and take appropriate actions as a result. This is actually really hard for computers to do, and this is where artificial intelligence diverges from regular computers, say, where we have to learn the language to interact with the computer. Instead, it learns our language and is able to take actions from, a messy and flawed language that doesn't adhere to rules necessarily. So some of the other key features of this artificial intelligence are it doesn't need human intervention to do what you ask it. And although there is some human oversight on the back end, it's mostly smart. It does these things automatically. So as far as setup, you will need a couple of things to get started with your smart speaker. You're going to need a dedicated power outlet. Some of them can run off batteries, but most often than not, they'll need to be plugged in constantly to be able to work regularly for you. You're also going to need wireless internet, Wi-Fi. There is nowhere to plug an Ethernet cord into a smart speaker. Wi-Fi is the way you're going to have to connect it. You're also going to need a smartphone. Almost all smart speakers are set up using an app on your smartphone. Now, moving forward, we're going to talk a little bit about how the actual mechanics of the interaction works with a smart speaker. So they are equipped with a microphone to hear and at least one speaker to respond through. And they're activated by a wake word, such as Alexa, OK Google, Siri, etc. And they are always listening for their wake word. Once they hear that wake word, they record what you say for several seconds. Then that recording is sent to a central hub for processing, and then they give you your response. So for example, if I say, Alexa, what's the weather today? And I can say that, I can ask that question in a variety of ways. I can ask, what's today's forecast? I can ask, what's the weather like outside? I can ask, what's the temperature going to be? It's going to take the recording of my words and take it to that central hub and, through the words I've said, gather the information I want to receive and return that information back to me. You're going to see a light somewhere on the device when it's actively listening to you. And you'll also see that light when they're responding to you. You can mute these devices to stop them from listening for their wake word, and they won't respond again until you reactivate them. Their features are not at all limited to what comes pre-installed. Generally, just the stock applications will come pre-installed for you. Specialized apps can do a whole lot more, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but it really does vary entirely by device. So depending on what you have, might not be the same as what I have. So it really does depend. So I'm going to ask you all over the next couple of slides to take a short poll about which of these you have or have used. I've personally used my Amazon Echo in my home for the past few years. I also purchased a Google Home for the library last year while I was planning to do this program like in person. But those are the only two I personally have experience with. So let us know, do you have one of these smart speakers? Or do you have a different smart speaker? Or do you not have one at all? And we'll revisit that at the end of these set of slides about the big three.
Lydia, while they're doing the poll, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Daniel. Daniel asked, can I use an iPad instead of a cell phone for a smart speaker?
On some of them, yes. Yes, you can. As long as you can download that app, and we'll talk a little bit more about the specific apps you need, you should be able to use it just fine. Thanks for the question, Daniel. All right. So I'm going to make a distinction for you all between the device and the AI that's running the device. Okay. So Amazon's device is called the Echo and all of its many iterations, and its AI is called Alexa. Google's device is called the Google Home, and its AI is the Google Assistant. And Apple's device is called the HomePod, and its AI is called Siri. So again, just to reiterate, Amazon's AI, Amazon's artificial intelligence, is called Alexa, and it is in the Echo device. So the device is that physical piece of hardware that you're going to spend, $30, $50 on. And the Alexa is the thing that's making it give you all this interactivity. There is the Echo Dot, the Echo Plus, the Echo Spot, and Show are for video and audio. So there's a ton of different options in this range here. So you're going to set up your Echo in the Alexa app, and it is linked to your Amazon account. So you will need an Amazon account to kind of power this whole interaction. You don't need an Amazon Prime account, but you do need to have an Amazon account. All apps are installed through the Alexa app, and questions are recorded and archived under your name connected to your Amazon account. And again, Google's AI, the Google Assistant, is inside of the Google Home devices, powering those interactions. That's who you're talking to. And it is set up in the Google Home app. Google has the Google Home Mini, the Google Home, and the Google Home Max. The Google Home is linked to your Google account. So again, if you do not have a Google account and you want a Google Home, you're going to have to make that account before you can really do much of your setup with it. Apps are installed through the Google Home app. And again, questions are recorded and archived under your name in connection with your Google account. And finally, we have Apple's AI Siri inside of its HomePod. And Siri is probably one of the oldest. I think AI Ask It has evolved greatly, but it's been around for like 12, 13 years or so. So the HomePod is set up with the iCloud on your iPhone exclusively. So this Apple tends to be, of all these companies we'll mention today, it tends to be the most particular about compatibility and wanting to keep you using Apple-specific products. So it is linked to your Apple ID. There's no direct app for control. It just interacts kind of seamlessly with the different apps on your iPhone. Questions are recorded and archived anonymously, and this is the only one of the big three that doesn't tie anything that is recorded by your device to you as an individual. So let's take a look at our poll results here. Okay. That's kind of more or less what I expected, but I wasn't sure. Like, the Echo tends to be the most popular one that I'm seeing, or that I was seeing in people's houses. So I'm not really surprised. I'm curious as to what the other is. So maybe if whoever, has a device besides these could let us know in the chat what other device they're using. And it's interesting to note that lots of you don't have a smart speaker quite yet. So maybe you're thinking about learning and getting one. That's awesome. Cool. Thanks for sharing with us.
Lydia, I had a couple of questions come in.
Awesome.
One of them, I'm not sure what device specifically, it wasn't indicated, but someone was wondering about how they would mute the device, and I would think it would depend on each one.
Yep, it definitely depends. So I have the most experience with Alexa, so there's just a button on the top that kind of looks like an anti-microphone. I don't know how to explain it. It's not quite your traditional mic, but it's like a button with a line through it that's like a no, and then it turns your whole, the light, it turns it red, which is very like, nothing is being recorded now, supposedly. So it really depends on which device. You could always like Google mute my XYZ and it'll show you up a result there.
Awesome. Okay, and then Daniel wanted to know, do I have to stay with the Apple smart speaker if I am using an iPad?
Not at all, Daniel. I have a lot of Apple ecosystem stuff. I have my iPhone and I have my iPad that have my Alexa app on them. So you can really use whatever you'd prefer. Unless you are trying to get the HomePod, then you need the Apple devices, if that makes sense.
Awesome. That was all the questions then.
Okay, sweet. Thank you. So awesomely, and I see here that the other is a Sonos speaker that uses Alexa. So this person is still using the Alexa AI, right? But they're using it through a different device than the Echo, which is totally possible. The AI is more malleable and more mobile, of course, than a physical device. So there are some cars that have Alexa in them, things like that. It's actually turning into a pretty cool way to use these devices. I'm kind of excited. Thank you for sharing with us. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the good things, the great things, the fun things that you can use your smart speaker for. So throughout this section, if you have a smart speaker, I'm going to ask you to put in the chat what your favorite things to use it for are. Share with us, and I'll be sharing some of my favorite things to use mine for with you as well. Absolutely. I love using my smart speakers for music and audio and like podcasts and stuff like that. I love to have like a general ambient music in the background just throughout the day. When I used to have friends over, I would always, play some fun tunes for them. And when I'm cooking or cleaning, it's awesome to have music all throughout the house so that, you can hear music going from one room to another. Oops. You can do this through the radio by playing specific stations or by genre. You can do this through dedicated apps. If you are a Spotify, Pandora, or Apple Music user, you can use those. And you can also play music through your phone via Bluetooth. So I love doing this. I do it almost every day. Another awesome way to use your smart speaker is as a digital assistant. So I tend to do a lot of reminders on my phone to remind me of things that I'm thinking of in the moment. Along with that, I add to-do lists and shopping lists. I'm a list-oriented person, so I like the ability of being able to add to a list without having to stop what I'm doing to remember something in the future. Um, you can set timers and alarms. I don't use anything but my smart speaker for cooking times anymore. It's turned into my new egg timer, oven timer type of deal. I love it because it's hands-free. All I have to do is say, Alexa, set the timer for 15 minutes, and I don't have to worry about it. I know it's set. And because I have two of them, I have one in my kitchen and one in my front room here, I can hear it everywhere in the house whenever the alarm goes off. So I think that's really cool. And, I don't have to get anything messy when I'm cooking by, setting a timer or anything like that. You can also ask general questions, quick facts like what's the tallest mountain in the United States, definitions of words, and simple little facts like what's the capital of Wisconsin. There were some really cute videos floating around of like little kids having Alexa help them do their math homework, and I thought that was pretty precious, if not a little a little naughty on the kids' part, but hey, it works. You can also ask for weather updates. Like I mentioned in a previous example, you know, I love doing this while I'm getting ready for the morning because of course, I could check my phone, I could turn on the news, but if I check my phone, there's a high probability I'm going to get distracted by social media. I'm just being honest. And if I check the news, there's a higher probability I'm going to be distracted and worried for the rest of the day about that. So I love just getting the information I want without having to wade my way through a lot of other extra stuff. And routines. Routines we'll talk about more on the next slide, but they are a series of tasks triggered by a specific word or phrase like good morning or good night, for example. So, the next good thing we can do with our smart speakers is use them as a smart home hub. Your smart speakers can connect to and command smart devices throughout your home. It can control them individually, by room, or as a part of routines. It's important to note that not all smart devices, excuse me, not all smart devices are compatible with all smart speakers. You'll especially run into that issue, like I kind of mentioned with Apple stuff. Um, you might find that to be the case, but what you can do is just make sure whatever you're looking to buy says compatible with in the name of your device in full, right? So it'll say compatible with Echo Dot, compatible with Sonos speaker, compatible with Google Home Max or Mini or whatever the case may be. now I'm actually going to switch over to sharing my phone screen just to show you kind of what the Alexa app looks like, so I can at least give you an idea of that. And kind of show you the routines and how you can divide up your smart devices there. I think I have around 10 or so smart devices. And there we are. All right, so this is what the Alexa app looks like. And we're just going to go down to devices at the bottom here. So if we go to lights, we are going to see I have a division of lights. I have it separated into rooms, the living room, the kitchen, but I can still control them all individually. So, because these lights around me now happen to be RGB lights, and when I say lights, in this instance, I'm talking about the actual light bulb. That is the smart piece of these lights. The actual light bulb is connected to a little, I guess you could say, hub that connects to the Wi-Fi. So these light bulbs are actually all connected to the Wi-Fi, which is crazy to me. And I can turn them on from here. So I've turned my Alexa off because if it was on, it would be responding to me constantly and telling me what the weather was and what the tallest mountain was. So she's muted, but I can still control everything from here. So if I push on this lamp here, and it's the lamp to my right, so any change that happen, you'll see on that side, and I can change the brightness. And depending on the type of light bulb you buy, you might even be able to change the color. And I love this for, setting the mood for Halloween. We usually have like purple and orange lights in our front windows just to have that, added layer of fun. And, turn the brightness all the way up and kind of really make it your own. I can turn all the lights off or on at a switch, as I mentioned. And then also, if we back up a bit, we can see the plugs. Plugs are another way to make devices that aren't inherently smart into smart devices. So essentially what you'll do is you'll plug your lamp or television, let's say, into a smart plug, and then plug that plug into the wall, and then that can turn on and off your device as you command. So these are all smart plugs that I have. I have a fan on a smart plug. It's unplugged currently because it's winter and I don't need a fan in my room right now. So that's why it says it's unresponsive. But other than that, I can still control all the lights in my bedroom from where I'm sitting in my office. I also have some cameras set up. But you can also set up, if you had, say, a Nest thermostat, you could set that up and see it here. If you had a Ring doorbell, you could also connect that to your Alexa. And there are more and more smart devices being created like every single day. So you can really make yourself a true smart home if that's what you're interested in doing. So I'm going to go to more just to kind of show you all some examples of those routines we talked about. So we're going to go into featured, and these are kind of like suggested, recommended routines for average people. So you can have it set so that Alexa wishes you good morning and, say, reads you a news brief in the morning after you say good morning to her. After alarms, you can have it set so that Alexa tells you the weather. If you say, Alexa, I'm home, you can have it set so that She welcomes you home, tells you the day's news, and turns on some relaxing music. Like, it can get really complicated, but really, really fun. And there are a whole list of other ones, and you can make them as custom as you want to. It's kind of an if-then sort of setup where you say, if I say I'm going on a run, you do these 3 things in succession. It's pretty simple to set up as well. It's not that complicated. I'm confident you'll just work your way on through.
Okay, our question that we have from Daniel kind of goes along with what you're talking about, and I think the answer would be yes, but I will let you say.
Okay.
He asked, could I use the speaker as a timer for my meditation practice with dedicated audio files at the start and end of the practice?
So with dedicated audio files, like maybe like a gong, say, and your gong goes off 3 times, or there's mantras going on or something like that, I think you could. You would probably have to have it as a either file on your phone or uploaded in, like if you're using an iPad, uploaded into your iTunes or Apple Music. But yeah, and if it was already a published song, you could certainly do that. You just have to create that routine and say, create a routine where you start your routine playing the song, and then an hour later, you'd have to put that if I say I'm meditating now. You start by playing a sound, whatever sound you determine. Then an hour later, you play another sound, and so on and so forth. Does that kind of answer your question, Daniel? You let me know if not. So those are the big things in the app, and it's going to be a little different, but for the most part, the setup is going to be similar. It's just going to look totally different if you don't have an Alexa, but it seems like most of us do. All right, so we're going to stop sharing that and switch back to our presentation. All right. And I see a lot of you are using your smart speakers to play music, of course, ask for the weather, radio stations, to see if the vegetables you're chopping for your guinea pigs is safe for them to eat. Always a good thing to do. I ask if things are safe to feed my dog all the time. So I'm glad I'm not the only one. Asking for a quick news report, music, absolutely. So since we are trying to have a well-rounded Tech Tuesdays today, we're also going to talk about the potential bad that can come along with smart speakers, specifically as it pertains to data and privacy. So smart speakers are listening all the time, but they are not recording all the time. They record only after they hear their wake word, and even then only for about 5 to 10 seconds. Amazon and Google store your recordings alongside your account information, and Apple does store them anonymously. However, they all store all of your recordings at their headquarters. And you may ask, why do they keep your data? They keep it so they can review your interactions to make sure the AI is doing what it should. So if I were to ask Alexa what the weather is, and Alexa told me that the Super Bowl was on Sunday, they might want to, review that interaction and see what happened to make her give me an incorrect response. So the data you create essentially becomes this massive amount of training data for the AI to make it even better at doing its job. So your recordings are secure for the most part. These big companies, especially these big tech companies, keep their data very secure. It's a PR nightmare and causes millions in damages and bad PR when customer data is breached. I don't know if any of you remember what happened, how people stopped trusting Target a couple of years ago because their customer data breach. So, it's in their best interest to keep your data secret, private, and to make sure it never sees the light of day except for their purposes. So along with that, you know, you may ask, why do they even, like, what are they going to do with it besides train their AI? Why is it so important that it's tied to me for some of these companies, especially for Google and Amazon? Currently, they're not doing anything with it as far as we know. But they could start using them to sell like specifically targeted ad space. Um, that's just how the future's going with ads. They're getting more and more specified to who you are and what you like. Moving on to safety and privacy. So installing an app, especially a third-party app, because you can do that on Amazon Echo and Google Home, installing an app gives its creator permission to change how your speaker works, including potentially turning your speaker into a wired app. A company called Checkmarks figured out how to do this in an experiment. They weren't doing it maliciously or anything. They were trying to break the Echo. They created an app that told Alexa to record you indefinitely and send them a transcript of what you said. Amazon immediately closed the loophole that made this possible, but it was possible, and it will probably, criminals are smart, so it will probably be possible. So take note of that, especially when installing third-party applications that don't have a lot of reviews, those sort of things. So I say all this just to keep you aware of the potential bad things that can happen. I don't believe, they are common at all, but I just wanted to give you a well-rounded view. So above all that, though, the onus, as with most technology-based things, is really on you as the consumer to do a good job researching the apps you install, reading its reviews, and keeping all of your devices and applications up to date. Because sometimes they discover these security holes before anything has happened. But if you have an out-of-date app or an out-of-date operating system, something of that nature, it leaves those vulnerabilities open.
All right. Are you ready for another question?
Sure.
Awesome. Okay. Daniel would like to know, do the dedicated files, I'm assuming the sound files, have to be on the iPad or can they be stored on the smart speaker? They're thinking about using crystal bowl sounds at the start and end of the meditation, and the time to be 30 minutes.
Okay. I bet there might be a skill to do that now that I think about it. If you want to hang out afterwards, Daniel, just for a little bit, I could probably check through and see if there's actually a skill that already has that. Meditation is very popular. I'm thinking the sound would have to be on your personal device just off top, but there might be a skill that does the whole interaction for you, so you don't have to make a routine. So we'll see.
Cool. Okay. And then Elaine would like to know if you could give an example of an app to install on Amazon Echo.
Sure. Totally. Thanks, Elaine. Let's see. I'm going to reshare my iPhone with you all. Kind of walk through that. Cool beans. All right. So from the home screen, I'm just going to go to more and go into skills and games. And one app I like, because I'm a nerd, is the Jeopardy app. There are a lot of skills that are fun, like party type games. There's a trivia battle game. Yeah, I recommend the Jeopardy app. It's really fun and it's nice to hear Alex's voice again. Um, and you know, do 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 do. There are apps that are just silly, and there are apps that are, you know, practical. Apple Podcasts is a good app. Smart Life, if you're planning on having, multiple devices um, connected to your smart speaker and you want to have that smart home hub utilization, you might want to consider getting that to help you link all your devices. And you can always get some of the skills specific to the music devices that you use or music services that you use. So if you use Pandora, maybe you want the Pandora application or Spotify, etc. So yeah, I hope that answers your question some, Elaine. And you can really make it whatever you want it. There's a whole host of categories that kind of are as specific or as broad as you want them to be. So yeah, thanks.
Cool. I think that's all I got for you for now.
Awesome. So we've kind of reached the end of the bulk of the content I had for you, but if you have more questions, feel free to put them into the questions panel. So to kind of wrap up, smart speakers can be super useful devices. They're great to play music and audio, as well as act as your digital assistant, just serve as that extra pair of hands for you. Um, and they are useful in controlling other smart devices. But there are some legitimate concerns. Uncertainty about what Amazon and Google may do with your information, and the fact that installing third-party apps might leave you vulnerable. So whenever you install, if it's not a known entity, so for example, you're installing, say, you're looking for something to play music, and there's an app called 123 Music that has 4 reviews, and there's a Spotify app that has thousands of reviews. Spotify is a known entity. Like, it's also a big tech company that you can sort of more or less expect to keep your data secure.
Elaine just wanted to say thank you. She hasn't explored the Alexa app, even though she has it, so she's going to explore now.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Of course, you're welcome. Absolutely. There's a lot of fun stuff on there.
Okay, and somebody, Mercedes, would like to know, what do you call a third-party app? Like, do you have an example?
Sure. So anything that is not like native to, so for example, if you have your Google Home, anything that's not a Google app is going to be a third-party app. And if you have you can't really install third-party apps on the HomePod, but anything that's not an Amazon app, which is going to be a lot because Amazon isn't in the same exact space as Google, is going to be a third-party app, not made by the developers, right, of the Alexa. So Spotify is a third-party app, even though it's, a big tech company. It's not made by Amazon for Alexa specifically. So just take extra caution that they are changing your device for better or for worse, but you don't want them to not be reputable enough to trust them with that change, if that makes sense. All right. If you have any more questions, go ahead and feel free to put them in. But that is all I have for you all today. Thank you so much for coming. My contact information is on this slide. And I believe Beth put in at the beginning of the chat, you can go to mpl.org/stay connected to learn more about our awesome offerings from the library.
Almost done.
And next time, we'll be talking about delivery and curbside. Oh, hi, Elaine. Good to see you too. So I'll hang out for a couple of minutes with any questions you may have. And I am going to look into that meditation for Daniel quickly.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize I was unmuted.
No problem.
They were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Just."
So I am seeing that there are 48 results for meditation in the Alexa's skills, Daniel. So I don't know if one of those might work for you so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If they don't work for you, of course, you can create your routine with your preferred sounds, your preferred times, and those sorts of things. I've never created a meditation routine, so I'm curious as how that will go. So I'm just going to do it. Well, if there are any more questions, I'll stick around for about 2 more minutes just to make sure.
Looks like Daniel said thank you.
You're welcome. So Daniel, if you happen to try out making your own routine, feel free to shoot me an email and let me know how it goes. All right. Hopefully we'll see you all next week. I hope you have a wonderful evening and stay safe out there. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.